Welcome. On behalf of the Will County Division of Transportation and the Village of Monee, welcome to the first public information meeting for the Manhattan-Monee Road Phase 1 study. Appreciate everyone taking the time to join us tonight to learn more about this study. Next slide, please. From the Will County Division of Transportation, Christina Kokowski, who is the project manager from the county side, is in attendance tonight. I am Joel Christel. I am the project manager from Civil Tech Engineering. So I think we were muted there. If you want to go back, we'll just introduce Jim Tibble. He's the project engineer. Jen Hurtado is the design engineer. And then Anmol Shrivastava is our traffic engineer for this project. Next slide, please. Just a few housekeeping items for tonight. This is some webinar instructions. Please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. It says Q&A. You can type questions at any time during the meeting. The Q&A session will occur at the end of the presentation. If there's a question that we cannot answer, we will follow up with that and post it to the project website. For some reason, if you lose connection, you can call in. The call-in number is on your screen now. It's 312-626-6799. And then you can see the webinar ID and the passcode as well. Maybe we'll leave it on here if you want to jot those numbers down in case you do lose connection. You can call in and get back in. The webinar is being recorded. So if some reason you have to leave, this will be posted on our project website, www.manhattan-monee-study.com. Next slide, please. So the items we're going to talk about tonight include, we'll go over the project study area. We'll look at existing conditions to get everybody oriented to the area. We'll discuss our crash and traffic analyses. Those are used to shape our project purpose and need, which we will discuss. We'll talk about our project area observations with some of the studies that we've done so far. And then we'll talk about our next steps and the schedule to complete the project. Next slide. Oh, so this is the virtual public webinar, obviously. We are holding an in-person public information meeting next Wednesday, April 7th, from 5 to 7 p.m. indoors at the Monee Village Hall. The same information that we're presenting tonight will be presented at that meeting on the 7th. So, given we're still in a pandemic, we wanted to give people the option to, if they wanted to attend in person, they could. If not, we can facilitate this virtual webinar for them to give feedback. Like I mentioned, the recording will be, for this webinar, will be posted on the project website. So just to give us, orient ourselves here, Manhattan-Monee Road is the main focus of this study, but the west limit is at the west village limit, and then it includes, goes to the east, and then it includes the area at the I-57 interchange ramps. Along Ridgeland Avenue, we're going from about Emerald Parkway on the south up to and a little bit north along north of Manhattan-Monee Road. And then we don't have Sunset Drive on the map here, but we are going to be looking at Sunset Drive as well. And we'll talk about why we're looking at Sunset Drive a little bit later in the presentation. So this area has seen an increase in traffic due to an influx of development. That's obviously very, very aware of many areas in Will County, and this is especially true along this corridor. So before we present the data that we collected and the analyses that we performed, it's important to know what improvements have occurred and what future improvements are planned in the study area. The first improvement that we wanted to highlight was the I-57 interchange and Manhattan-Monee Road. The structure over I-57 was reconstructed in 2009. and it was widened to a 5-lane cross section at the interchange. However, even though the bridge is wide enough for 5 lanes, the westbound through lane is striped as only 1 lane. The Manhattan-Monee Road improvement, Manhattan-Monee Road was widened in 2017 to continue the 18-foot median west. A traffic signal at that time was added at Ridgeland Avenue and then the Amazon entrance just west of Ridgeland Avenue as well. And then the final project we wanted to highlight was Ridgeland Avenue north of Manhattan-Monee Road. That was widened to a 3-lane cross section because of some development to the north. Some future projects in the area, obviously one of them is our project, our phase 1 study. There's also a phase 1 study being completed by the county that's just to the west of us. It's from Center Road to basically the Village of Monee western limit. And then there's some corridor improvements identified in the Will Connects 2040 plan that are farther out, but something that we will consider as we move forward with this study. The village is currently in design engineering and right-of-way acquisition. Right-of-way acquisition are negotiations for to realign Cleveland Avenue to intersect Manhattan-Monee Road at Hamilton Avenue. So that's something we'll keep in mind as we move forward as well. So we'll kind of walk through the project length, discuss some of the existing conditions that are throughout the corridor. To orient everyone, north is up on this exhibit. So Manhattan-Monee Road is a minor arterial. It's under the maintenance and jurisdiction of Will County. The existing lane configuration consists of one 12-foot through lane in each direction with an 18-foot median. At the I-57 interchange, which is at the right side of this exhibit, the roadway widens to provide 2 through lanes in the eastbound direction. However, as I mentioned earlier, the westbound outside through lane is striped to provide only 1 lane at this time. Traffic signals are located at the east Amazon entrance towards the left side of your screen, also at Ridgeland Avenue, and then at the I-57 ramps at the interchange. The existing right-of-way width ranges from approximately 80 feet on the west end along Manhattan-Monee Road, approximately 80 feet, widens to about 105 feet, and then 150 feet as you move farther east. The posted speed limit along Manhattan-Monee Road is 45 miles an hour. There are wetlands that we have delineated. They are in green. There's floodplains that are in light blue, which is more than likely out of our project study area, but it's something that we should look at as we're going through this study. And then drainage features such as existing waterways or ditches that are in the darker blue. We also have identified utilities throughout the corridor that we'll keep in mind. The next roadway is Ridgeland Avenue. That's a local roadway under the maintenance and jurisdiction of Monee. The lane configuration consists of 1 through lane in each direction, except the southbound lanes south of Manhattan-Monee Road, where there's 2 through lanes at present. The existing right-of-way is 100 feet wide, and the posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour. The last roadway is Sunset Drive that I mentioned earlier. This is also a local roadway under the maintenance and jurisdiction of Monee. The roadway cross-section consists of 1 lane in each direction and has a full access T intersection approximately 200 feet west of the southbound ramps at the I-57 interchange. Excellent, thank you. So crashes. One of the ways we determine the existing safety in the corridor is to perform a crash analysis. We request crash data from various sources and map out the type, location, time of day, pavement condition, as well as the severity of the crash. From that analysis, we can determine if there are any predominant crash types or patterns, and also determine how we can improve safety in the corridor. So this is one of our first steps that we do as part of each project. From this exhibit, you can see that the predominant crash type, which is in yellow, are rear ends, and those make up about just over 60% of the crashes. This type of collision typically occurs when there's congestion with the study area. So now I'll turn it over to Jim Tibble, who will discuss the traffic and some of our area observations.
So back in December of 2019, prior to the pandemic, we took some traffic counts out in the project area to understand the amount of traffic that's out driving Manhattan-Monee Road and the intersections. During those counts, we observed manual traffic control at all 4 of the signalized intersections. And this was happening during both the AM and PM peak hours. The average daily traffic along Manhattan-Monee Road increases as you approach I-57. At the west end, Manhattan-Monee Road sees about 8,300 vehicles per day. And as you approach I-57, it increases. And just east of the northbound ramps, the ADT, average daily traffic, is just below 20,000 vehicles per day. The south leg of Ridgeland sees 6,400 vehicles per day, and the north leg 1,500. Along I-57, the ramps to and from the north see just over 8,000 vehicles a day, and to the south and from the south, just under 2,000 vehicles per day. When we look for designing a roadway improvement, we want to look at the existing traffic, but also at the future projections to evaluate how the corridor will function with the future traffic growth. In the year 2050, the traffic is projected to almost double within the corridor. Manhattan-Monee Road will range from about 15,000 vehicles per day at the west end up to just below 30,000 vehicles east of the interchange. Ridgeland Avenue on the south leg increases to 11,400 vehicles per day, and the ramps to and from the north see an average daily traffic grow to 12,800 vehicles per day. After we get the anticipated traffic growth, we analyze how much delay we experience at the intersections and along the corridor. Traffic operation and delays are analyzed on a scale very similar to a report card, where you have A being the best or free flow traffic and F being the worst or gridlock. A level of service D or better is typically considered an acceptable level of service. Under the existing conditions, the intersections with traffic signals at both Ridgeland and the Amazon entrance operate with a level of service C. At the interchange, the intersections operate with levels of service E and F. I do want to note that at the Amazon entrance and Ridgeland, there are individual movements that operate at levels of service E and F. However, the entire intersection as a whole operates as a level of service C. And then as we move on to look at the 2050 projections, we take the 2050 numbers and put them onto the existing roadway network. And we see that the traffic will grow into gridlock, almost complete gridlock throughout the corridor. At the southbound ramps at I-57, the intersections operate at level of service C in the PM and D in the AM. However, those as well have movements that operate as a level of service E or F. So what does that mean for our project? The existing traffic volumes have outgrown the existing roadway facilities. High travel delays are experienced, requiring manual traffic control during the peak hours. There is continued growth and development within the corridor, and there has been an increase in crashes as traffic has grown. So with this project, we will look to improve the safety and operation of Manhattan-Monee Road at the Ridgeland Avenue intersection. We will also improve the safety and operation of the corridor as identified in Will Connects, the Will County 2040 plan, in conjunction with other adjacent county and village projects. So what are some things we consider when we look at the corridor and begin our alternative analysis? There are different segments along the corridor, as Joel has mentioned, that have different right-of-way widths. At the west end, it was narrower. As you head towards I-57, it gets wider. And this could have different impacts as we look at alternatives and we widen the roadway symmetrically on both sides, or if we widen to one side. We also want to make sure that the traffic signals all operate acceptably and have adequate storage lanes and taper rates for the 2050 traffic. We want to eliminate the need for manual traffic control. We will also look at the potential drainage improvements, including curb and gutter and possible stormwater detention, as well as adding corridor lighting. We want to provide the right number of travel lanes required to reduce corridor delay. We will evaluate impacts to the environmental resources, adjacent properties, and utilities as well. As we approach the I-57 interchange, there are a few other items that we will be looking at. There is a heavy directional movement at this interchange, the southbound to westbound movement, as well as the eastbound to northbound movement. Further coordination with the Illinois Department of Transportation will occur to determine the extent of the project at this interchange. I also want to point out that the intersection of Sunset Drive is located very closely to the southbound exit ramps to that intersection. This is a potential safety issue that we will look to address. To address this issue of the closely spaced intersections, we will investigate a realignment of Sunset Drive. The realigned roadway would direct traffic to Manhattan-Monee Road through Ridgeland Avenue. With the realignment, the new intersection of Sunset Drive and Ridgeland Avenue could be controlled by a traffic signal. The existing Sunset Drive could be modified to have a cul-de-sac at the north end, still maintaining access for all property owners. So what are our next steps? We are following the federal aid process to make sure this project is eligible for federal funding. To do that, we need to evaluate our alternatives from both a geometric design standpoint as well as an environmental standpoint. Through the alternative analysis, a range of alternatives will be developed that meet the project purpose and need. The environmental process will evaluate environmental impacts to the corridor for each alternative. And those impacts include impacts to wetlands and other biological resources, such as endangered species, noise analyses, and special waste. After the analyses are complete, a preferred alternative will be selected. During this whole process, we will be coordinating with many agencies, including the Illinois Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, and the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. We are currently in phase 1, which is the environmental and design studies. We are anticipating our phase 1 study to be completed in about a year or so. Later this year, or maybe early next year, we anticipate a second public information meeting to present the preferred alternative. After that, the next step is phase 2, which develops contract plans and covers the right-of-way acquisition and negotiations. Finally, there is the construction, which could begin as early as 2025 or 2026. However, that is dependent upon funding and the project readiness. During phase 1, and potentially during phase 2 as well, we will be applying for federal funding to cover at least a portion of the construction costs. Now we are going to open up the meeting for questions and answers. Please use the Q&A feature to submit your question. If we are unable to answer your question, we will follow up and post the answer to the project website. Again, all questions and answers and a recording of this meeting will be posted to the project website.
This might be a first. I don't see any questions so far in the Q&A. We'll kind of leave it here. We'll kind of just wait a little bit to see if anybody has any questions. If you do think of something after the meeting or tomorrow, or it's keeping you up at night, just please go to our website at www.manhattan-monee-study.com. There's a feature there where you can ask a question, get more information. We'll be posting updates to this website periodically, but please reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns about anything that's happening. So we'll kind of just sit here and wait and see if there's any questions. You can, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay, there's one question. The pastor from the Monee Free Methodist Church on Willow Creek Lane, I believe that's just west of the Amazon facility. They see a high amount of trucks from Amazon turning around in their lot. Will there be any way to address this with new signage? Yes, this is something that we will be able to address. This is a concern from you. We will try to coordinate with Amazon and see if there's a better way for access into and out of Amazon. We believe that some of the, maybe not the issues, but some of the, maybe the traffic problems could be, that Amazon could have, one of the access is in only and one is an out only to better circulate traffic through the Ridgeland Avenue intersection. But those are all things that we're thinking about. This is really good to know that this is happening so that we can address it somehow, as part of the project. We can maybe, we can, have a better, maybe following the meeting, we can reach out to you as well and see if there's, which lot, when are they doing it? Is it all the time? That type of thing. And we can see how we can address that as part of the project. So thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Does anybody have anything else? I know sometimes it takes a little while to type instead of talk, so we'll keep you here and see if there's any other concerns, questions that come up as we, as we wait here for a little bit longer. So we have another question. We mentioned utilities, and then it says, will new utilities for internet be run as they build? Their site, the church does not have high-speed internet access and would love to see it run to our site if that can be coordinated. That is not typically what happens. Usually we relocate utilities, but as we get into the design of this, sometimes as they're relocating, they may try to upgrade, but that is really something that we'll have to go through later in the project as we start to coordinate with the utility companies. Some utility companies don't want to coordinate in the phase 1 study. They wait till the phase 2, but this will be something that we'll pass along as we move forward. We have another question. We did mention federal funding. The rest of the dollars coming from. So depending upon what type of federal funding is secured, typically on average, it's usually 80% of the dollars come from the federal government through a grant. The other 20% are local dollars. So that really has to be worked out from here. Who has jurisdiction over the road will depend upon where those local dollars, or we call it the local match. So it'd be 80% federal, 20% local match. It really would probably be between the county and the village to determine what that percentage is. If it's work along Manhattan-Monee Road, it's more than likely coming from the county, but that's something that will have to be worked out. I think Christina would maybe want to jump in here and say something.
Yeah, I can give you a better understanding. We currently have an intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Monee where we are splitting the costs basically in half for the preliminary engineering and the design engineering, with the understanding that we would be pursuing federal dollars for construction. At this point, depending on the federal dollars that we are awarded, if it's through um, the the governmental council, that if it's local federal funds, there's a cap of about $4.8 million for the project. There's also a larger regional pot of money that we can apply for, which really doesn't have a cap as far as dollars go. Um, but as far as um, the current funding, we are looking at it as a 50-50 split, at least for phase one and phase two. I'd have to go back to the intergovernmental agreement. I don't know if it went into construction or not. And it will be presented in the county's FY 22 to 27 tip program that is typically should go to board for adoption in July. That's typically when we send our tip to the board.
Okay, thank you. What, any other questions? If there's questions that you have now, or if you want to follow up to understand something that you remember, that would be, there's another question. So this meeting just identifies the problem area, but doesn't say how it's going to be improved until you see how much funding is available. Is that correct? Actually, that is not correct. So what we like to do for some of these, for our projects, is to introduce the project to the public, let you know that we are doing this project to improve the corridor. Our next steps are to identify what is going to be improved, or how we're going to improve the safety, how we're going to reduce congestion throughout the corridor. So that's the next step. When we do that step, then we will identify how much this project is going to cost. Then we can apply for funding. So we really need to know how much the project is going to cost, what we're going to do so that we can get funding for this project. Certain projects, if we're going to improve these intersections by a lot, then it looks better in the funding application. So we need to identify those improvements next. That's going to be our very next step in this process. That's a really good question. Thank you. Anything else from anyone? We'll still stay here. Sometimes as you hear questions, and it might spur your brain, and you can think of other things that you may want to ask. So we'll stick around for a little bit and see if any other questions come up. I'm not seeing any other questions. I think we'll stick around a little bit longer. We don't want to cut anybody off any earlier than we need to. We want to make sure we're answering to the best of our ability the questions that you guys and concerns you guys have so far. Just a couple things. All comments that were received by April 21st of 2021 will be added to the meeting record. However, we'll take comments throughout the study. This is it's just as part of the federal process. We have to have a comment deadline for each meeting. So that's why that April 21st. But if something comes up and you want more information, please just go to the website and we will get the comment or concern and then get back to you as soon as we can. Again, there's a in-person meeting next Wednesday, April 7th at Monee Village Hall. We're going to have that in person. It'll be the same information that is presented tonight, that was presented tonight. It's going to be an open house format, so there won't be a formal presentation. It'll just be the same exhibits that you saw as slides here, and then we'll be around to answer questions or concerns that you have. Again, you can reach out to us through the website if you have any further concerns or questions about next week's meeting or anything else. We can go forward. So I think what we'll do is we'll stick around till about 7:40, unless some more questions come up. That way we can, if there's nothing else, then we'll go forward and go on with our night. So we'll stick around till about 7:40 and see if there's any other questions. We've had a few people leave the meeting. I think there's only one person left. So if you are that person, if you have any questions, just let us know through the Q&A feature, and then we'll be happy to answer that. Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll close the meeting now. Thank you everyone for coming, and we will, if some of you want to come next week, we'll see you next week on the 7th. Thank you.